Hello there, and welcome back to some more Gran Turismo 5. Today we're continuing on Let's Play. This is episode 43. In today's episode, we are taking a look at our final license test block, the Super License, also known as the Special License. Unlike in previous games where these used to be one-lap time trials around circuits and they'd be incredibly difficult to pull off, in this game they're all applied overtaking tests, which essentially means you have one racing lap to get yourself from the back of the field to first, which is pretty straightforward because the AI aren't particularly good. What that means is these are by far and away, in my opinion, the easiest licenses to gold. This should be a straight up gold trophy license to go through. There shouldn't really be any challenge here whatsoever. There's a few little hiccups you might experience along the way, but overall it's pretty good. Anyways, this first test is here at Monza. As you can see, the first chicane is probably where you're going to overtake the vast majority of cars. The sort of inner curbing, the green stuff, that doesn't count as grass, so you won't fail if you go onto that. That seems to be a pretty consistent thing amongst this entire game. You can cut that anytime you see it, you can cut it without fail, and you can definitely save yourself some seconds there. Ultimately, you probably don't really need to, because this is actually a pretty straightforward test. None of the cars here are actually massively quick in comparison to the 430 Scud. Bit of a sloppy overtake on the XJ220 there, but when they get the roof down this bit of the track, I've completely forgot what all the corners are called. The last car, I'd probably try and get it before the start-finish straight, just so you can have confidence that you are going to beat the challenge. Although that being said, the lead car here is a Nissan GTR, which isn't particularly quick, so nothing too much to really worry about here as we get onto the charge to Parabolica, the one car I do remember the name of. Parabolica, I think I just managed to, get him just before then, go up his inside, go a little bit wide into the corner, but it doesn't really matter because the Nissan GTR can hardly fight against that, and the GTR doesn't have the straight line speed that the 430 Scuderia has, so you can just simply waltz your way to the finish line, and then boom bada bing, there be the gold. These are all going to be all gold that you're going to see in here. I did gold the entire license test because, again, they're so easy. You probably saw that at the start because I forgot to film the introduction to this for some reason. Anyways, test number 2, Trial Mountain. We are going to go ahead and be given, I think it's a Maserati Gran Turismo. I should have really looked very quickly as to what the car actually was. This one is a little bit more complicated. Trial Mountain doesn't possess as many clean overtaking spots, so it's really just all about track knowledge and keeping momentum. Also, to be said, the Gran Turismo isn't as good as the 430 Scuderia. 430 Scud is sort of, you know, nice and mid-engine, very nice handling mid-engine car, probably one of the best in the game. Well as the Gran Turismo's very heavy, rear-wheel drive. It does drive better than its Alfa Romeo cousin, as we found out during the Grand Tour, but really it's not all that much better. The long left-hander after the straight is your best overtaking spot, which is this bit coming up here, just as we get out of the tree foliage. I managed to jump 4 cars. I'll also sort of give the Corvette a little bit of a problem. The Pagani is a lead car. Pagani quick through the corners, not quite as much power on the straights, and as you can see, the AI do slightly struggle to drive it. So yeah, ultimately, again, as long as you know Trial Mountain, which I do very well at this point, you can just sort of go full send as you do at Trial Mountain and get yourself the victory that way. It's not too difficult. I'm just, for some reason, remembering the fact that Gran Turismo 7 kind of bastardised the circuit. Anyways, a run up to the line, and there we go, another gold, bing bada boom. Yeah, not much more to really say about that one, or indeed many of these. There's not a lot of intricacies. There is a few of these that get a bit challenging. The one after this is one of them, but this one is the Nurburgring GP circuit. We're going to be going ahead and using the SLS AMG for this, which is a car we are familiar with because of our Nurburgring training, obviously. SLS, pretty good car, so this one isn't too bad. The first sections where you're going to overtake the vast majority of cars, like that first corner right there. As you can see, we pretty much jumped everyone. Listen to Gran Turismo 5's god-awful Lexus LFA sounds as we go ahead and pass him somewhat unconstructively. Yeah, as you can see, the first section of the track is just pretty much where you get up everyone. The Ford GT does block slightly, which means I can't quite get around him as quickly as I did want to, but fortunately I've still got several miles of racetrack to go ahead and get him, and I get him into this corner anyway. The Suzuka is probably going to get done into this hairpin, and then after that it's just a pretty solid run to the line. The Nurburgring GP one, this is probably the easiest of all these challenges, to be honest, just because the Nurburgring GP circuit, the AI aren't great around here, and you can definitely exploit the fact that they're very on rails and want to constantly follow the same line as each other. You can get quite creative with your overtaking moves into the first corner and stuff. Same really with like the F1 games, where you could just send it down the inside of these first corners and do that. Speaking of which, have you been paying attention to my F1 Let's Plays that I do on Twitter, where I tweet out the results of races? If you don't, you should. Follow me on Twitter. Yeah, there's not a lot more to say about this, evidently, which is why I'm speaking about that. But yeah, you can do that if you want. I think by the time this video is released, F1 2022 will be out, and so I'll probably be going quite hard on that game. Anyways, as we round the final corner and do our trademark sprint to the line, because that's how you finish races. Yeah, it's another gold. It's, again, that's probably the easiest one for now. There's a few of these that are very, very easy. That's definitely one of them. One that isn't easy is this one, Tokyo R246 in the Ferrari 330 P4. This one, well, you only have to overtake 8 vehicles. They're all sort of these old Le Mans competitors or endurance racers, sports cars, I don't know. All of those are wrong, and all of those are going to make everyone very angry in the comments. The XJR13 isn't even a race car because it was a prototype. Ha ha ha. Anyways, the big difficulty with this one is a Ferrari 330 P4 and Tokyo R246. Not really good bedfellows. The car's a little bit boaty to drive, does like to snap, and the place where you will find that out the absolute most is coming down this bit here, the straight into the right-left kink, which often throws cars off balance, and this car is definitely no exception. You can see I brake very heavily through here, don't try and do any form of heroics, but do manage to grab the Corvette and that into here. Also, I think if you smash into the walls quite hard here, you get disqualified. Could be wrong on that. Don't really remember. But either way, now that we're in the lead, it's just a case of trying to keep the Ferrari on the road, which is a little bit more complicated than you'd expect. I mean, if you're willing to settle for just a bronze, then these licenses really are pissing. To be honest with you, if you have brain damage, you'd probably be able to do them, but yeah, this one a little bit more difficult, it does have to be said. This one and the next one, these are probably, what would I say, 4th, 5th and 8th are probably the most difficult ones here. As you can see, yeah, gold, woo. Anyways, next test is going to be going to Laguna Seca, which usually is a good thing. However, when it comes to an overtaking challenge, maybe not so much. We get the Chevrolet Camaro SS, which isn't a terrible car to drive. It does have to be said, 12 opponents. Again, it's another one where the first section is the majority of the moves, and this all basically comes down to how much you are willing to overdrive the car. You are sort of overtaking muscle cars, which you wouldn't normally be worried about, but there are Corvettes in this field, which are a little bit more worth worrying about. I think the lead car here is a Challenger. Challenger, obviously, handling-wise, is a bit of a disaster, but straight-line speed-wise is probably quicker than the Camaro. As you can see, managed to clamber my way through all of those cars. This, like I say, it all comes down mostly to the corkscrew and the couple of challenging turns that are around there. This section of track, section 2, is where you want to be at your absolute quickest. As you can see, the old Charger's absolutely dominating the modern Charger, which isn't surprising because this is Gran Turismo, and if anything is a million years old, then it's probably pretty good. Look at the GT40 in Gran Turismo 2. The race car GT40, not the one that everyone makes a big deal out of beating, even though it's not even really that challenging to beat that event where it shows up at the Rome City course. But never mind, we're going to go get the Challenger into the last 2 corners here. And yeah, pretty straightforward stuff, it has to be said. Again, this one a little bit more challenging. To be honest with you, with how much I like Laguna Seca, I was expecting to dominate this one a lot more than I actually did in reality, but you know, we take it and we roll across with another gold as we symbolise the fact that we are halfway through the super license. Anyways, on to the next course. This is going to be Madrid, and we're doing this in the Lamborghini Miura P400 weird prototype version that they have in this game, and it's a toss-up. Nurburgring GP is very easy, but this one is also incredibly straightforward. The Miura's kind of OP. I'm not gonna lie, this is a good car. The Miura, definitely up there with the 430 Scud that we drove. It's a bit weird in this game, you know. Mid-engine cars are either absolute disasters or they're as good as this thing. Don't get me wrong, you also get lucky at the fact that competition is a bit crap in this event, to be honest with you. It's a lot of old cars that can't corner as well as this. But yeah, the Miura is a phenomenal bit of kit to drive. And to be fair, I mean, the Miura is always a pretty good car in racing video games. I remember in Forza, the Miura is quite good. As well, as you can see, we get the lunge straight away on the modern day Gallardo, which is a handling disaster, and that's it. Really, like I say, it leans a little bit, which you've got to get used to, but I really liked my time with the Lamborghini Miura. And bear in mind, this is my first attempt at it. There's no splicing or cutting. You can see it's a little bit difficult to, it can be a little bit of a handful, but it is just so quick through corners, and surprisingly more forgiving than you'd expect despite what happened there, although that's mainly because I'm an idiot. So yeah, it's another one where it's like Nurburgring, where you just basically lead for the vast majority of the track, and there's just not a lot to really say about it. No one's ever really going to challenge you with an overtake, and the AI aren't particularly good about Madrid as well, so all of the above is good news for you, and that's another gold to stick ahead in L Trophy cabinet. Next we move on to the Top Gear course, which is another course which we should have some pretty decent fake Ferrari knowledge of, thanks to the fact that we have to do special events around here where we have to overtake in usually very slow vehicles. Jaguar XKR, not particularly slow vehicle, but you know, you still use your knowledge of the Top Gear circuit here. Get creative with your overtaking. You can be disqualified for hitting the cone, so definitely be aware of that. And like I said, just get creative with your overtaking opportunities. Ultimately, the Top Gear track was really only meant for one thing, and that was just to see how quick cars were around it. So to use it as a racing circuit, a little bit strange. If you haven't done the Top Gear experiences, maybe give them a go if you just don't know how to drive around the Top Gear track, just to get yourself more comfortable with driving around here. But if you're like me, who's a bit of a veteran of this track, as people who are fans of the channel may know, this isn't particularly difficult for me. There's lots of good overtaking opportunities out of hammerheads, particularly good. Also coming up to the second to last corner here, you can usually catch people unaware who are going to try and take that corner a lot slower than you are. As you can see, we jumped the M5, I think it was, that was in the lead, and we get ourselves another gold trophy. Are you surprised? No, you shouldn't be. At this point, let's be honest, for some reason it took me a very long time to figure out to exit to the thing there, and now we see the very, very low poly exterior of the Top Gear track. Number 8, it's the Suzuka circuit, and it's the Alfa Romeo 8C, a car which we aren't fans of in this game. It's very pretty, very, very pretty. It actually doesn't sound too bad, considering it's Gran Turismo 5. Unfortunately, it doesn't drive particularly well. Although, fortunately, unlike our previous time driving this, we're not driving this around the Egna Norwood circuit, although we're still driving this around Suzuka, which isn't great for overtaking, it has to be said. Never really is. 12 opponents in this one. The opponent count is apparently sort of starting to slowly shrink as these go on, which is kind of funny. Maybe they thought overtaking 16 opponents at Suzuka was a little bit stupid. I don't know. What I do know is you have to get creative with your passing opportunities. These are not places where you would normally pass cars. However, because it's Suzuka and it is a track which is notoriously quite difficult to overtake on, you do need to get a little bit creative with where you're overtaking. You might also notice there's about 3 different car pools that they use for these events, apart from maybe R246 where that's sort of tailor-made competition, but for a lot of these it's basically you drive against either old supercars and sports cars, your sort of Jaguars and Roofs, and you know, I guess that also extends to like these modern day Ferraris, or just sort of be sprinkled in there, or you drive around sort of sports saloons. They don't really, like I say, it literally does feel like they spawn about 20 different cars for that, this, and that's about it. No real thought went into it. What a shame. Anyways, as you can see, I've managed to overtake the California long before 130R, which is quite surprising. I think this might actually fall as an assist on. I'm just looking. You might have to drive around with a active stability management on during this, which isn't great, but that's what they give you. Yeah, I mean, technically speaking, you could do 130R, try and get slipstream on someone and pass them into this final corner, but I didn't really have to do that, because I got creative with my passing, which is, like I said, get creative. Just because it doesn't look like an overtaking opportunity doesn't mean you can't make it an overtaking opportunity, because this is Gran Turismo and your opponents can just be barged out of the way. And we wonder why online racing is such a plague on the human brain cells. It's because of games like this. Anyways, I accidentally clicked restart, which was hell. So we move on to S9, the Circuit de la Sarthe, in a Lexus LFA, and you've got to overtake 16 cars. However, the crucial thing to this is the Circuit de la Sarthe, which is very long. And because, as we've discussed previously, the AI in these events are not great, the results of this means that this is by far and away the one that you should win with like the most amount of margin. Also, you could just drive off the track. Yeah. This one's very, very straightforward. You should overtake everyone long before the finishing line. Of course, the thing that makes this slightly more difficult than something like Nurburgring, Monza, Madrid is just the fact that it's the track and you have to sort of stay aware of where you are. It is a longer track, so it is slightly harder to learn, but even still, I mean, you could probably follow the AI for the majority of the lap and then just overtake one of them on the final bit. But as you can see, there you go, first place before we've even hit a chicane. It's very straightforward. There's nothing to really talk about on this one, and that's why I'm not going to talk about this one anymore. I will meet you on License Test 10. even my rambling skills could not manage to take me all the way through there. As you can see, gold. Yeah, it's very straightforward, very easy to do. So let's move on to our graduation test. Test number 10, special stage Route 5, McLaren MP4-12C. It should technically be the hardest one, as you'd expect. Apparently my best record's first. I might have forgot to record this one, if I remember, so I had to do it again. Was that a problem? Not really. You should jump everyone long before the end on this one, because it's very, very easy. The MP4-12C, pretty good car to drive. Not quite as good as the Scuderia, in my opinion, but it's still reasonably manageable, as long as you don't try and, like, brake in round a corner or anything like that. And as you can see, 12 opponents to overtake, and they're all pretty easily dealt with before the tunnel. Get the SLR McLaren around there, because the SLR McLaren's a bit naff. Get the McLaren F1, because the F1 hasn't got a good AI driver. Get the Veyron, because it weighs a gazillion tons. And then, of course, the best car in this game is a Ferrari Enzo, according to a lot of the applied overtaking challenges in this game, and even him, we just piss past. Yeah, it's just very, very straightforward. Apparently the MP4-12C's got the most ridiculous blow-off noise in the world according to this game, which is kind of fun. But yeah, this is not difficult whatsoever, and indeed this entire license test session has not been difficult whatsoever. These should be very, very easy golds for you. A lot of these were done first time, so I think the only one I really had to retry was R246, and that's just because I wasn't prepared for the way the 330 P4 would drive. But if you like the 330 P4, then you're going to have no problems with these whatsoever. As you can see, straight blast down to the line, and then we will have all golds in a license test bank for the first time in a long time in one of my Let's Plays, because I do not have the patience to get golds in most license tests. And that will give us a fair amount of experience points, one would imagine. Anyways, let's go ahead and get ourselves to the main menu, where we're not going to have a very nice woman talk to us about what our next challenge will be, because we've already done it. And there you go, that's all of the licenses done in this game. Now we can accept free players cars, because, well, we've done it. Which I already have in my garage, apparently. So for the bronzes, you get the Oprah Performance S2000, which is a car from Gran Turismo 4. A reasonably good club racing car. Yeah, if you're into that sort of stuff, something that'll probably carry you through a decent portion of the game. For silver, we get the Mazda MX Cross Sport Concept in K2 Red. A pretty cool car, sort of signifying the Mazda CX-9, which would come across later. 2.3 litre turbocharged engine. Not massively useful for the game, but still a pretty cool car to have in your collection. And finally, for all gold, you get the Nissan GT-R Spec V GT Academy Edition. So this is just a normal Nissan GT-R with the GT Academy plates on. I believe this was used for the well, it says 2009. I don't know if it was in the 09 GT Academy or if it was in 2010 or whatever, but there you go. That's what you get for all golds. And that's it for license test. Thank you all very much for watching. Next time I'm going to be taking a look at the Gran Turismo Rally Intermediate. So join us for that. Until then, farewell.
Yes, I will stay here for a while, for I need the break. A break from the criticism.